Fitness coach answers commonly asked questions about a vegan, vegetarian diet. My name is Fritz Horstmann and I'm a plant-based coach, and with my company Green Fit Club we've helped over 1,500 people over the past years transform their bodies and health, and that's what I do all day. So I'm excited to deliver this video to you because this is something that I have been requested doing a couple times, and especially if you're a new vegan, new vegetarian, or you're dabbling in making the switch. A lot of people are afraid of making the switch because will I lose all my muscle? Will I be able to get my protein? Will it be too restrictive? What about all the carbs? I want to cover all these topics here, and I can speak of experience, again, coaching thousands of people and building my own physique on a plant-based diet. I know a thing or two about it, and in this video my promise is that you will learn the common questions, you will learn how to overcome those questions and those struggles, and you will leave this video with more clarity and also avoiding struggle. Again, I've coached a lot of vegans, vegetarians over the past years, and a lot of them do struggle, and I want you to avoid that. So that's what you're going to get out of this video. The path here in the video is I'm going to cover the most common questions, like where you get your protein from, isn't a vegan diet restrictive, how do you gain muscle without eating meat, what about nutrients? Are you missing out on any nutrients? How do I navigate my social life? How can I get enough calories in, right? And what advice would you give someone that is making the switch? And also, how do you find like-minded people? How do you find a community? So I'm excited to dive in, and I have the presentation here. So this is obviously Tofu and me on the picture. And I want to start right away with the first question, which is, where do you get your protein from? Okay. As a vegan, as a vegetarian. Now I wanted to kind of dissect this into primary sources and secondary sources, because a lot of vegetarians, vegans kind of get this wrong and go to the wrong sources because of information they see online or because a friend told them, and that's one of the biggest issues actually. One of the biggest challenges for most plant-based eaters is protein. Why is protein so crucial? It has so many functions in our body, obviously, but especially if you're trying to get fit, gain muscle, lose fat, protein is the most important nutrient you need to cover and you need to get enough of, okay? Especially in today's day and age, a lot of people just rely on chicken, on steak, on animal products to hit their protein. So once they switch away from that, they're ending up not getting enough and being deficient, which leads to muscle loss, weakness, irritability, fatigue, and just everyday struggle. Also, if you're hungry all day, it might be because you are protein deficient. So, what are those sources you should go for? Quite simply, you see on the screen, those are the best plant-based sources of protein, and these might surprise you. These might already be known to you, but I want to break them down. So, per 200 calories, which is crucial to understand, a protein source is only a great source if it actually contains mostly protein per calorie. If it has a lot of carbs, a lot of fats, it's not really considered a protein source. Because you want to think, okay, how can I get the most bang for my buck? Because protein is the most important nutrient. If you're trying to lose fat, you also need to stay within a calorie framework. You can't just eat whatever and hit your protein. Like, you can hit your protein, for example, just eating, I don't know, nuts or nut butter, right? But is that an efficient way of doing it? No, because you're going to have 5,000 calories for maybe 100 grams of protein. So these are the most efficient and ranked, okay? So we have seitan in the top, 40 grams of protein per 200 calories. This is an incredible, amazing source of protein, and super lean, low carb, low fat, and you can even make it on your own by yourself. There's plenty of recipes online, and it's really tasty if you get it right. Okay, you can also store by this. Tofu, obviously, the main source, easily accessible, you can buy it anywhere. Amazing amino acid profile, meaning a full amino acid profile. And amino acids are the building blocks of protein. A lot of vegetarians, vegans struggle with this and thus don't gain the muscle, don't lose the fat because they're low on certain amino acids. Okay, so tofu is very super versatile. There's plenty of videos out there as well how to make it tasty. I personally like to just pan fry it with some spices. There's also baked tofu. that you can use and you can cook. So this one is super versatile. We have tempeh, which is also based on soybeans, just like tofu. Tempeh is quote-unquote a healthier version of tofu because it's fermented and it still packs a lot of protein and a low amount of calories. So tempeh is a great choice. Tempeh is a bit trickier to prepare, so you need to make sure you have some recipes and guides on how to do that to get the most out of this tempeh, because it's actually delicious and a great texture. So give that a shot as well. You can do tempeh curries. You can just glaze it and bake it as well. So great choice here. Now below we have TVP, textured vegetable protein, which basically most of the time is based on soy. So soy isolate basically. And it's just a dry powder form of soy isolate. Now there's also pea-based TVP, which I personally love because I do want to kind of lower my soy intake or keep it in a certain range. So if you can find that in Germany, Switzerland, you can go to Coro Drogerie. They do have that there. I'm not affiliated with them. And this one usually packs a ton of protein as well. So again, 30 grams of protein for 200 calories. Edamame, great choice as well. This is maybe not as easily accessible for a lot of people, but if you live in a Western country, what you can do is you can go to an Asian store where they usually have like frozen edamame. So that's just a quick tip for you on the side. By the way, you can also find tempeh there, because you might be like, hey Fritz, where can I find tempeh? You can go to Asian stores and you'll be able to get it there. And protein powder, this is obviously the biggest one here. As you can see, the most protein per 200 calories. And this is obviously plant-based protein. If you're a vegetarian, you can also go for whey. Plant-based protein sources in terms of protein powder I like are rice protein, pea protein, or a mix of them both. I do not recommend soy isolate protein powder because we do want to keep our soy, from whole food sources and minimized to some degree. And why do that from a protein powder and not just get it from tofu, tempeh? And as you can see, this has the most amount of protein. So my tip here is have 1 to 2 scoops a day. If you're really trying to lose fat and gain muscle, protein powder on the plant-based diet is going to be your best friend because it's super versatile, it's tasty, and easy digestible too. So it doesn't come with anything else. So that's why your body absorbs it much better, much quicker. All right, so protein powder, big recommendation here. Don't be afraid just because it's processed. Oh, can I have processed foods? That's a whole different topic for a different video, but just because something is processed doesn't mean it's bad for you. All right? This is an appeal to nature fallacy, which basically says that anything that's natural is good for you. And that's a common misconception because, you can die from toxic mushrooms, right? At the same time, there's things that are unnatural that are good for us, like medicine, right? Just a food for thought. Now, those are primary sources. Get those in every day and you'll be on the right path. Now, secondary sources are also interesting to look at. These are commonly the ones that are being touted as being high protein for plant-based eaters. And as you can see, obviously they pack some protein, but if you compare them to the rest, it's like half the amount or 1/3 of the amount to the primary sources. So funnily enough, when I started my plant-based journey, I followed those secondary sources to a T. So my meals were packed with lentils, packed with beans, packed with oats and quinoa. I still have videos of that. Maybe we'll put those on the screen. And what ended up happening is I was bloated 24/7 and I gained 30 pounds of weight. I went from fit to skinny fat in just a few months. So do not do that, and that's why I'm doing this video, so you can avoid this mistake. So looking at these sources, right? Lentils, again, are still a solid source, 14 grams for 200 calories. It's a nice tag-along option for you. Sometimes it can be the main source, like if you have a lentil dal, for example, or you're doing a lentil salad, can be a nice protein-packed meal. But lentils also come with a lot of tag-along carbs and fiber, which you don't see on screen. But that's just something to keep in mind. Same with beans, right? Black beans, kidney beans, a bit lower than lentils. And the thing with beans as well is you need to be mindful of bloating. If you want to avoid it, you need to minimize your bean intake. I would say 1 to 2 servings a day. Obviously, beans are super healthy, right? So don't forget that. They have a lot of tag-along micronutrients as well, right? Let's quickly talk about micronutrients. They're obviously crucial for health, especially for plant-based eaters. You gotta get your iron, you gotta get your calcium, your magnesium. and all the good stuff. However, a lot of plant-based eaters obsess about micronutrients, and then they forget about macronutrients, which are proteins, fats, and carbs, which are obviously bigger and more important, especially for health, for body composition. All right? So beans, that's my thoughts on that. Nuts, okay? So here we are really going into a low category of protein sources. 7 grams for 200 calories compared to 40 from seitan. Do you see the difference? Do you see how it's opportunity cost to spend your calories on nuts? For protein at least. Nuts are super healthy, right? They have a lot of tag-along nutrients. However, they're really high in fat and thus also high in calories. And thus, they don't really, I don't consider them as protein source, but they can be a nice add-on to the side. I used to, funny side fact here, because I used to follow some other plant-based doctors and influencers, and one of them said, cashews are so high in amino acids, you should put them everywhere. I was like, yes. So I ended up putting cashews on my meals, and that ended up just overshooting those calories by a lot. So next ones, I'll go quick here. Quinoa, again, touted as a high protein source. As you can see, pretty low in protein, is mostly a carb source for you. Oats, same thing here. I love oats, and I also love quinoa, but they are a solid carb source. And if you can understand that concept of my carb source is my carb source and maybe has some tag-along protein, like oats and quinoa, but then I need a protein source, like a standalone protein source, like seitan, tempeh, tofu. If you combine those two, that's a great meal, okay? That's a high protein, delicious, nutritious meal. As a fun protein source, we put sourdough on here just to kind of challenge the status quo. As you can see, bread has more protein than nuts, right? But no one talks about bread as a protein source. Just as a side fact, obviously don't have bread for your protein, but it can be a nice carb source. Don't be afraid of bread, all right? So this is where you get your protein from on a plant-based diet. I think this covers it. If you make these changes to a more primary source, you're going to see amazing results on your fat loss diet and journey, okay? More on this in separate videos, more in depth, but this is really what it looks like and what matters. Plant-based eaters definitely can get enough protein, okay? This is what you need to understand. You don't need meat to hit your protein needs, but you just gotta make smart choices and eat the right plant-based sources, and then you can get 120, 150, or 200 grams of protein, which I'm getting. I'm 6'3" and 210, 220 pounds, and I'm getting 200 grams a day. I do need to work with shakes more so as well, but it is possible if you just know how and which sources. I tried getting my protein in with lentils, and I miserably failed, okay? But this is from a fitness perspective. Now, next question. Isn't a vegan diet restrictive or a plant-based diet? Let's talk about it. A plant-based diet has an abundance of foods that you can use in many different ways. So the answer is no. It's not restrictive in terms of not being able to enjoy your life, not being able to get a variety of food. It is restrictive, obviously, because we're cutting out animal products. So either all animal products or, if you're vegetarian, mostly the meat. So it is restrictive in that sense, and that's a good restriction. So let me explain. In life, if we want to make progress in certain areas, we need to restrict ourselves. So if you want to get smarter, for example, then you might restrict yourself watching less TikTok, watching less TV, watching less movies, okay? And you want to read more books, watch more educational content, listen to more podcasts, okay? If you want to have a great relationship, you need to restrict yourself from bad habits like cheating, like hooking up every day, every night. Not saying it's bad, but just putting it out there. And you need to have more better habits where you need to work on yourself and contribute to society and to the relationship. Now, if you want to have a good health and a good body, you need to restrict yourself of certain foods that are not good for you, okay? Like Oreos, like fried food, like pork, or processed meat, like canned tuna, right? Like animal-based products. So this is the key. My channel is about plant-based diet. And obviously, you can get in shape eating meat. A lot of people have done that before, so if you want to get in shape, you can do that. Macros work in any diet. You could be eating fish all day and you'll be getting in shape, all right? However, what my message with this channel is, restrict yourself and go plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, because that restriction will create growth for you long-term. Restriction will lead to progress in your health, in your well-being, and in your weight. So while you can lose weight eating bacon, beef burgers, and meat pizza, I do want to make you realize that that's possible. It's not the healthy way of doing it. Your internal health will suffer if you eat a lot of pork, processed meats, and all these foods, right? So restriction in this sense, try to think about restriction in a different way. In a way of, it's good for you. It's gonna make your body adapt, it's gonna make you healthier. So yes, you need to cut out animal products if you want to be plant-based. So there is a restriction in that sense, but it is good for you. Now, the second part to that is it actually restrictive? Is it actually like you can only eat grass and stones every day? And obviously the answer is no, right? As you can see, there's tofu bacon, there is seitan burgers, there's even vegan, vegetarian, obviously, vegan pizzas. There's a protein pizza we were just talking about earlier today that you can buy that has 50 grams of protein and 700 calories, and you can buy that in any store in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Now, there's some countries that have more restriction, or some cities. In some rural areas in Texas, it's probably a bit harder to be plant-based than in New York or in LA. However, it doesn't matter because you still have access to a variety and an array of food. Most of our food as humans, we have evolved eating plant-based foods like grains, rice, pasta, right? Those are core foods that we have evolved on. And also, you need those for optimal health. So there's no restriction. There's a million recipes in our program, in our club. We have high protein, delicious, easy recipes. And maybe I'll share a few of those in the future. But what it really comes down to is you can use any food in so many different ways. You can have chickpea crust pizza that is high protein. You can have tofu nuggets, which are high in protein and delicious. You can have white bean pasta. You can have vegan casserole, right? There's so many things, more than these I put on the screen here. But in the end, I found, just a personal experience, I found I've had more variety of food when I go out, when I travel, when I try restaurants. It's more exciting to me, and it's actually more fulfilling than just being able to go anywhere and eating whatever. And I've increased my amounts of meals I eat and the variety of meals I eat. I've become more cultured with food in my personal experience. So restriction is good to some degree, and you don't need to be afraid of restricting yourself. There's plant-based meats, there's plant-based cheeses. Nowadays it's so easy to make those changes. But restriction is also good for you. So don't be afraid of that. A vegan diet is not restrictive in a certain way, all right? So next question, how do you gain muscle without eating meat? Don't you need meat to gain muscle mass, right? Now, that's a good question. I think this is a question that many people have, and it comes from a kind of societal norm where meat always gets associated with manliness, with building muscle, with getting stronger. And it has a certain reason for that, because the meat of animals and the muscle of humans, they have a very similar amino acid profile. So you can make the argument that if you eat the meat, you will pack it on as muscle, but that's just not how our body works. Our body works based on, and it's pretty beautiful, based on macronutrients. So proteins, fats, and carbs in terms of muscle gain. Okay, we'll talk about muscle gain. So to add tissue to your body, okay, biceps, tissue, legs, booty, you need to eat protein, because protein is the building blocks of muscle mass, and amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Now, can you gain muscle? Can you get protein from a plant-based diet, do you think? Quick quiz. Yes, you can. We talked about that earlier, right? So if you can get in enough protein, then you'll be able to build muscle. So meat is not needed. Meat is made like the macros of meat are protein, some fats, and some carbs. Usually no carbs, right? Tofu is mostly protein, a little bit of fat, and almost no carbs. So, can you gain muscle eating plant-based? Yes, you can. And I wanted to put it on here as well. What are the 4 aspects to gaining muscle? Okay, it's not just about meat. Meat doesn't equal muscle, right? I mean, there's a lot of Americans out there probably, not here to judge, but there's a lot of people out there in general that eat a lot of meat that don't have any muscle mass, right? So the 4 aspects are still crucial. First aspect, strength training. You need to do weightlifting, strength training to gain muscle mass. You stimulate your muscle to work, and then it grows, right? So you got to do that. Second aspect is nutrition. So yes, you need to eat right to build muscle mass, else you will not do that, right? Now, we just talked about that. You can eat plant-based and gain muscle if you eat the right amounts of protein and enough protein. This is one of the biggest challenges people have on the plant-based side, is hitting enough protein. So you need to make conscious effort to do that, else you not gain any muscle mass. So the third aspect to gaining muscle is supplementation. This is especially key for plant-based eaters, so I will talk about that later in detail, but protein powder, for example, is a great addition here. And recovery, so you gotta recover to build muscle. And I mean, all these things, all of which are possible on the plant-based side, right? You can weightlift, you can eat, you can supplement, you can recover on the plant-based diet. So macros work the same with every diet, okay? That's something to understand. And I know the next question to that is, okay, but isn't it much harder to gain muscle eating plant-based? I would say it's more nuanced, so you need to pay attention to a few other things. You need to kind of expand your horizon and think ahead, think bigger, right? So you are making an effort to understand it. So we're going back to that concept I talked about earlier. Just because it takes more effort doesn't mean it's bad. It actually might be good, right? Just because something is harder to make happen, for example, the plant-based diet, it's probably healthier for you, okay? And there's a lot of examples online of people with a lot of muscle mass that don't eat meats. I've also been training plant-based for a couple of years now, so it is possible. And I've actually found, just the last point here, that following a vegetarian plant-based diet and getting muscle, you develop a more athletic and leaner, or for women, a more slimmer, more toned body, versus a heavy meat eater or carnivore. They usually are very bulky, usually very big, and for women, a lot of them have huge quads and look very manly, which on a plant-based diet usually doesn't happen. So that's just on that piece. Now, next question, also a very important one, is, am I not missing out on nutrients on a vegan, vegetarian diet? That's a great question. So the answer is not necessarily, all right? Now, just because you're cutting out meat and maybe eggs and milk and fish, yes, those foods have their nutrients. So fish is really high in omega-3 and protein and fats, right? Milk, high in calcium, high in protein, high in fat as well. And cutting those out, you might think, okay, like how do I get those nutrients now? Especially micronutrients, so especially B12, vitamin D, omega-3. Now, what's really interesting here is that, as you can see, a plant-based diet is sufficient to meet all your macronutrient needs and most of your micronutrient needs. So as we talked about before, protein, fats, and carbs are still achievable on a plant-based diet. Now, micronutrients, there's a bit of a challenge there, or there's something to be mindful of, especially nutrients like vitamin D, B12, and omega-3, okay? As I said, if you don't eat fish, you're not getting any omega-3. But what does the fish do? The fish eats the algae, which then basically turns into omega-3 in your body. And algae is high in omega-3, so you can take an algae-based omega-3 supplement and basically go right to the source instead of going towards the middleman, like people are go to fish. All right, that's one example. But it's the only specific example, because the rest, omnivores need to supplement too. Okay, I'll repeat this again. So vitamin B12, vitamin D, omnivores need to supplement as well. They're not getting that from their food either. Just because meats, basically cows and all the other sources, are fed B12, so the food has B12. But that doesn't mean that it's not supplemented. So they're already supplementing. So vitamin D, you also need if you are an omnivore, as we only get it from the sun. And it's highly recommended. It doesn't matter if you're plant-based or an omnivore. So these are the key supplements you got to take when it comes to nutrients. There are some other nutrients that are interesting to look at. Like I said, like iron, calcium, magnesium. But again, those are all interesting to look at. Doesn't matter if you're plant-based or not. But what I would recommend you do is you take a multi-mineral or a multivitamin every day, just to be safe and just to make sure you're getting all the nutrients in. And then you'll be fine and you have nothing to worry about. Now, I do want to say, and a cautionary tale, if you are plant-based and you're not supplementing, you will develop deficiencies and you will struggle with energy, hair loss, bloating, and just your body will deteriorate over time. So if you're a plant-based eater that wants to stay all natural and not take any supplements, I do not support that, and you are probably going to struggle. So please, please, please start supplementing. And again, the natural argument I talked about before doesn't really make sense. And I supplement every day. I supplement B12, vitamin D, omega-3, and protein powder as well, and multi-mineral just to get everything in. So am I missing out on nutrients on a plant-based diet? No, but there's some to pay attention to supplement, and you're not the only one who needs to supplement them. Omnivores do as well, okay? All right, so how do I navigate my social life as a plant-based eater? Which is obviously a crucial part. So this is one of the things that people face when they start and when they stop eating meat and when they start making changes. And I want to challenge you if you see this. Me as a fitness coach, I've coached, again, thousands of people, and I've seen this. This is a common challenge, so don't be fooled. This is definitely something you'll have to face. Now, instead of saying, oh, how do I overcome this struggle? How do I make friends? How do I make this work? Oh, it's going to be so hard. Take this as a chance to level up, okay? I want to reframe your mindset here. Going plant-based, vegetarian, is taking your life up a notch. It's going away from the norm, away from the average. So naturally, you're going to face some challenges, all right? Now, here's some solutions on the screen, but you need to realize that you're leveling up. See this as a level up. You're stepping away from what everyone else is doing, and you're doing something that's good for your body, good for the planet, good for animals. So you are raising your consciousness, basically. So this is a very health and fitness-based channel here, science-based. However, I also want to talk about the mindset piece, about the levels of consciousness. Like, we're not just robots who just eat and live and work. We have a consciousness inside of us, which means how do you feel every day, your emotions, your fulfillment, your contribution to the world. So do you want to raise that? Do you want to raise your vibration? Do you want to have people around you be inspired by you? Do you want to uplift others while uplifting yourself? Then how you do that is by raising your levels of consciousness. And in my opinion, going plant-based, cutting out meat, reducing your meat, is a way of increasing your level of consciousness and growing as a person, right? Following the light. So see this as a chance to step up and to level up, okay? Now, the 3 tips I have when it comes to navigating your social life is, firstly, tell everyone you're doing this as a challenge and that you committed yourself to 4 months to push yourself, okay? This can be 4 months, it can be 30 days, but be honest, be upfront, and tell people that you are challenging yourself to become better, to get healthier, to lose weight, to get in shape. And your friends, if they're really your friends, they will understand, they will support you. What a lot of people do is they like secretly go on a diet, like, oh, let me do this without telling anyone. And then when it comes to social life, they instantly fall off track because they're like, oh, like I don't want to tell them on a diet, like, let me just go. Let me just go to the restaurant, let me just eat this, let me just eat the pork and the bacon. Let me just follow the crowd, right? Like, I've learned in life, following the crowd most of the time is not a great idea. You probably got to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing if you want a different life. If you look around your surroundings and everyone has a life you don't want, then don't follow their habits. Don't follow what they're doing. But once you commit yourself to a challenge and you tell everyone, it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be a tough conversation or a tough situation. You might feel judged. But then it's out there, and then you're committed, and if something comes up, they know, you know, and it's just the challenge you are on. And then once you feel the benefits and see the benefits of this challenge, then you can continue and crush it, all right? So second tip here is to be proactive. So suggest plant-based restaurants or choose restaurants with good options. That's one thing. So don't go into restaurants blindly. Be proactive, or just have a look at what they have and maybe make suggestions on where to go. And also invite people over to cook with them. Okay, so it doesn't always mean you have to go to restaurants and be a victim to the restaurant menu. You can also just host get-togethers at home, at friend's place, bring your own food, like be proactive. I know it's a bit more work, I know it's a bit annoying, but do you want to make a change, right? Always go back to that. Why do you want to make this change? And the third step here is level up and join online communities. There's a bunch of online plant-based communities that are for free on Facebook, right? DM people on Instagram. That's how I made my first plant-based friends. I know it sounds funny and weird, but we live in a day and age where Instagram, social media is the way to make friends. So use that, okay? Don't blame the player, blame the game, whatever it's called. Use what you have as a tool and make the most of it. If you hate social media, be like, oh, like I hate Instagram, and like it doesn't really get you anywhere. So instead, what about you DM people on Instagram that have a vegan hashtag, that live in the same city, and you just ask them, hey, do you want to grab some vegan brunch, or do you want to, grab a vegan dinner? And obviously make sure it's not creepy, make sure your profile looks a certain way. That's a whole different topic, but you can also go to fitness meetups and run clubs. When I record this in 2024, these run clubs are really popping off at the moment. So there's probably one in your city, and you can just go to these and make fitness-based friends. Make friends that are on the same wavelength and they want to level up. If you want to make plant-based friends, I can show you a slide later with some more in-depth tips. But this is my take on how to navigate social life. See it as a chance to level up, be proactive, and go out there. Put yourself out there, right? Now, next question that comes up is, how can I get enough calories on a plant-based diet? Okay, this is kind of ancillary to the question with gaining muscle, but it does happen that people who make the switch don't eat enough calories anymore because the plant-based diet is very rich in nutrients, rich in fiber, so it can satisfy you a lot. And some people might struggle to get enough calories in. Now, the same thing here, by sticking to unique macronutrient distribution, okay? So everybody has a different macronutrient distribution they need, proteins, fats, and carbs. And like I said before, you can hit all these nutrients with a plant-based diet because potatoes have carbs, pasta have carbs, rice has carbs, we have avocado has fats, nuts have fat, right? And protein with tempeh, tofu, and a lot of other sources. So as long as you get these together and eat enough of them, you'll be able to eat enough calories. Now, if you're struggling to eat enough calories, I have a different video on that. However, a few tips here are actually pay attention to your calories at the first place, and then just eat foods that are a bit less satisfying. So there's more satisfying and less satisfying foods, and the ones that are less satisfying obviously are easier to eat, like rice, fruit, pasta, rice cakes, and you can have some processed foods from time to time, like cereal or chocolate, right? If they fit into your macronutrient distribution. So if your goal is weight gain, you need to track your calories and you need to make sure you eat a little bit more, and then there's no problem. I actually have been eating, like a few years ago when I did my vegan bulk, I ate like 3,500 calories, no problem at all. So if I can do it, you can do it as well. And it is a little bit more nuanced again because protein is very satisfying on a plant-based diet, but foods in general are very satisfying on a plant-based diet. That's why it's a little bit harder, because if you're omnivore, you can just eat eat whatever and get your calories in. So that's the difference here. So next step here is, next question, what advice would you give to someone transitioning to a vegetarian or vegan diet for the first time? Let's talk about it. My advice here, and again this comes from working on myself, but also working with thousands of people, this is not just a theory, this is actually the practice, what we've seen in real life. And my tip here is to not take it easy, don't take it easy, go all in, okay? So fully commit yourself to at least 30 days, do it cold turkey, so you're mentally committed and focused. So I see a lot of people wanting to take it step by step, and while that's a noble thing and then like a smart way of thinking about it, it just doesn't work. It's just, oh, let me reduce my meat and reduce the eggs and reduce the cheese. And the problem with that is you never have this strict starting point and the strict rule and the strict identity. So you just continue dabbling in animal-based foods and never really get the benefits. So I always say, commit yourself, go cold turkey, 30 days, see the benefits, and then go for it, right? The second tip I have for you when transitioning is obsess over protein, what I said before. A lot of vegans, vegetarians don't get enough protein in, and if you don't get enough protein, you're gonna fail and you're gonna not get the benefits. And if you obsess over it, if you make it your daily mission, your daily goal to get in enough protein in every meal, then you're gonna feel the benefits, it's gonna be amazing. The next tip I have for you when transitioning is follow as many plant-based recipe pages on Instagram and Pinterest as possible. So obviously there's an array of pages that have amazing foods. Just follow those and try those recipes, try a lot of recipes. And the fourth tip, if you're really struggling, work with a plant-based coach to help make it easy and to avoid nutrient deficiencies. So I'm a plant-based coach with a plant-based fitness program, Green Fit Club. So you can work with us, you can work with someone else, but do have an expert. If you are really, really struggling, I would definitely recommend that. So you can skip the struggle, skip the health problems, and go right to your best version of yourself. Now, where do I go for help or community? Again, I kind of talked about this earlier, but I do want to give a quick tip here. It's time to get out of your comfort zone. The community is not just going to come to you. You got to take action, take the step forward, and get there. So how do you do that? Is a few different ways, like I said before, but my favorite one is to just go to Instagram, go to the search function, and go to hashtag vegan Toronto, hashtag Berlin vegan, hashtag Bali vegan, and there's a lot of people like you that are posting the meals, that are posting their restaurant visits, and those are real people that are also plant-based. So maybe DM them, okay? And again, don't be creepy about it, be mindful, have a good profile. If you have a profile that's only like a cat picture and then no posts, probably not gonna get a response, okay? But if you have a smiling photo of you with some, some of your lifestyle, some of what you're passionate about, you're gonna get more responses and you're going to be able to make some friends. And that's just one of the best tips that helped me, that will help you as well. And when it comes to community as well, just some bonus resources. I mean, I'm building one of the biggest plant-based communities on the world, and that's on my Instagram channel, which you can follow me there, which I post content every day, and you can interact there with other plant-based people. Or you can also subscribe to this YouTube channel, where there's new videos every week, and you'll be part of a growing community of like-minded people. Obviously, in our program, we have that as well. It's one of our most loved features, where people come in for the transformation, for the fitness, but they stay for the friends and for the community. All right. So I hope this video was helpful. I covered all the biggest, most important questions and commonly asked questions that are important to cover if you're plant-based or wanting to be vegan. This is all from a fitness aspect. So if you're trying to lose fat and gain muscle, then apply these things and you'll be ahead of the curve in every way. And if you want to have help, then you can apply to work with us. Again, you can go to greenfit.club, which is the website, greenfit.club, and you can book a free consultation. We can see if or how we can help you. I appreciate you watching. Again, subscribe to the channel, clicking the button below and clicking the bell so you don't miss the video. and leave a comment. Leave a comment and a like if you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful. Again, you can crush it on a plant-based diet, get your fitness goals, get your muscle, lose the fat. No problem, you just gotta know how to do it.